Hello, I am currently sick. So if my voice sounds a bit off in this video, that's why. I really needed to record this audio though and get this video out. So here it is. Video games and superheroes go hand in hand, like peanut butter and the inside of my underwear. The colorful, lycra-clad world of comic book do-gooders is rife with the potential to deep dive into that world through the interactive world of video gaming. This isn't new information I'm peddling here. You're kidding me, I can't come up with an original idea to save my life. But still, as obvious as the concept of make good game with superheroes is, you'd be surprised how often the concept is messed up. Some of these are just ass, pure unfiltered ass. A lot more are overall decent, not blatantly offensive or anything, but not standouts of both mediums either. A vast majority of enjoyable superhero games I would group more in the AA category than the AAA category. And for years, that was the status quo. This little subgenre of video gaming was barely tapped for all the potential it was worth. And frankly, up until 2009, there was really only 3 video games that I'd put so high above the rest as best superhero games. Video games that, for better or for worse, hit the exact thing that I was looking for, making me feel like I was in the comic book itself. And all of them were Spider-Man. Elephant in the room here, yeah, I was a bit biased towards Spider-Man. Look, Spider-Man is like the everyman. He's every kid's idol. Don't act like that's not true. But another fan-favorite superhero, Batman, had not been getting the same love for quality video games. Batman Vengeance was good, sure, Lego Batman was also great, and that came out the year prior, but neither captured the same feeling I got when playing Spider-Man on PS1. This game was magical, as I really felt like I was just playing out a 6-issue arc of the comic books, lifted right from the page itself. Lego Batman was Legos, Batman Vengeance was based off the animated TV show. Nothing was really capturing that I am in the comic books feeling the same way Spider-Man PS1 was. I was craving to be engrossed in the same world occupied by the comics. But, alas, I was shit out of luck. Until 2009. In 2009, Rocksteady released their second game, hot off the heels of their debut title, Urban Chaos? Okay. They were handed the keys to the kingdom and allowed to make a project based off of the Caped Crusader himself. And they went all out, pulling in voice actors from the fan-favorite Batman the Animated Series, as well as a prolific writer of the same series, in addition to some Batman comics as well, Paul Dini, to do the bulk of the writing. Rocksteady had a golden project on their hands, and on release, everyone realized what a standout piece of media they had created. Batman Arkham Asylum and its following games are some of my favorites of all time. They didn't get me into Batman, no, but they certainly strengthened my connection to the character. So let's start where it all started, with the game that put Rocksteady on the map. Almost the entirety of the 7th generation of consoles was plagued by shit frame rate and distracting screen tearing. So no, I'm not going to be playing this on original hardware. Are you nuts? For starters, my 360 is in a landfill. Well, that landfill being named my friend Dacey's house. Secondly, you couldn't pay me to boot up that awful final UI design. So that leaves us with 2 options. The correct way and the stupid way. Let's talk about the stupid way first. WB chose to re-release both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City on, at the time, the current hardware of the PS4 and the Xbox One. They updated the lighting, redid some textures, and overall just made the game more accessible to the current generation of gamers. These are all good things. On paper. Yes, the game is more accessible, I can't really comment on that, but the other 2 falter for me. For starters, the new lighting, while definitely being of higher quality, really just kind of blooms out everything, making it overly bright. I really liked the darker tones of the original game, and that's erased here. And the texture work, for me, is hit or miss. The original wasn't perfect or anything, but these are both questions of artistic choice, and for my own artistic preferences, I prefer the original. And then, in Return to Arkham, they made the games 30 frames per second. I don't know why, I feel like the 8th generation could play these at 60. Maybe that's just me. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the back room, but whatever. There's a reason that everything I've played on the channel so far has been 60 frames per second. I have been spoiled by 60 frames per second. I'm not going back. You can't make me. So PC, I'm playing the PC version. This is Steam, we're doing the Steam version. But this one still rules, especially now that both Arkham Asylum and City have dropped the Games for Windows Live bloatware and are overall smoother to boot into. My rig can decently run this at 60 frames per second. I can't exactly turn on the fog. Something about either just the NVIDIA fog or recording at the same time completely borks any and all hope that I have for a stable 60 frames per second, and as stated before, I love 60 frames per second. I have zero evidence to back this up, but I feel like I can spot an Unreal Engine 3 title a mile away. Always seems to have big, bulky dudes, pores the size of football fields, and wildly dark art styles. But then again, some of that can just be blamed on the fact that the generation was filled to the brim with Unreal 3 games. I could throw a dart and chances are I'm gonna hit a game developed in Unreal Engine 3. It was just that prolific of a game engine. Regardless, I like it. It works for the game they're building. Does it feel old today? Dude, the game's 14 years old. Yeah, it's gonna look old. But does it look bad? No, absolutely not. The art style is dark and gothic, similar to the Dave McKean art it's pulling inspiration from. As previously stated, Batman Arkham Asylum takes very loose inspiration from the comic of the same name. And when I say loose, I mean loose. Some of the encounters are shared, but the overall narrative takes a bit of a left turn and introduces this Titan formula that Joker's been chugging on for a while. I'd say the biggest part Asylum takes from the comics is the Amadeus Arkham plotline, though this is regulated to scannable tablets you find around the game and just give you audio files. Okay, in concept, yeah, I think Joker and the Titan formula is fine. It fits decently within Joker's character who, in all fairness, has had way different interpretations depending on who's writing him. But using Titan in an effort to simply fuck with Batman and take over Gotham, that's probably the most Joker-y Joker thing I've ever heard. I do have some more issues with this, but that comes around when I get more towards the end of the video. The rest of the game really does feel straight out of the comics. While this game is in a continuity all of its own, it definitely feels like it's from the comics, in a similar way to Spider-Man for PS1. You could lie and tell me this was canon to the comics, and I'd believe you. This is the one Arkham game free of side quests, free of excessive open worlds, and simply focused on story with some light emphasis on optional collectibles. Because of this, it's the tightest in the entire series. Later entries play with this, but Asylum is the main one that feels like a Metroidvania. If you can't enter somewhere now, you'll be coming back soon with the tool needed to get in hours later. While there is a compelling narrative in the game itself, I'd say the bulk of what makes this game special is in the characters themselves. The primary players here are Batman and Joker. No one else has the same impact on the overarching narrative as these two do. Still, other characters serve as accessories to the struggle these two are locked in eternally. Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn are all voiced by their same VAs from Batman the Animated Series. Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, Arlene Sorkin, they all deliver an exceptional performance the same they had in the show. Harley, I don't like this outfit. I get the inspiration, a nurse, similar to, nurses who work in an asylum, I get that, but it's impossible to look at this outfit without thinking anything but this is meant to appeal to horny gamers. And I mean, that's not Arlene's fault, she still gives a perfect performance, but this is for horny gamers. Bane, though hardly showing up, is thoroughly Hispanic and angry, so he's solid in my book. I think Bane works best when you see him first at his most powerful, but power of the mind. The cold, calculated mastermind who's slowly dragged down into the venom-addicted brute that he's been known for years. While we don't see this genius mastermind, I still think his representation is good, as that was modern at the time, Croc sounds like his larynx was removed, thrown into a blender, and then shoved back in, and I love it. Scarecrow is a creepy little shit, that's accurate. Poison Ivy sadly has the same issues as Harley Quinn for me. She's good, great delivery from her voice actress, but then plagued by an overtly sexual character design. Hers at least feels more on theme, but this bitch naked. Don't try to tell me that this bitch ain't naked. This bitch is naked. Walking around in her dirty ass bare feet everywhere, this is disgusting. And fuck you, Riddler. Oracle serves as a good assistant NPC, helping Batman bounce ideas back and forth and not making him talk to himself all the time, and actually helping communicate to the player what the next move is and why. And then there's Joker, and oh boy, Hamill's work on the Arkham series might be some of the best Joker of all time. I have more things to say about that, but I think that's for a different video. Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Anyway, his performance is still really good in the entirety of the series. He's been dubbed as a PG-13 version of the Batman the Animated Series rendition, and while that's true, it's also true in Return of the Joker. This Joker just knocks it out of the park. I think Hamill is the definitive voice of the Joker. I don't think that that's a controversial statement. I think others have come around and done good renditions, like John DiMaggio in Under the Red Hood, or Michael Emerson in The Dark Knight Returns. Those are stellar Jokers as well. But Mark Hamill is the best. I can't refute that at all. Batman is Kevin Conroy. His performance will forever be the voice I hear in my head when I'm reading the comics. And I'm sure that's true for an entire generation that grew up with his rendition of such an important pop culture icon. In November of 2022, Kevin Conroy passed away, marking the end of his 30 years with The Dark Knight. The final role he will play the character as will be in the upcoming Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, also developed by Rocksteady. Knowing Kevin Conroy as Batman, this will be the same caliber of quality he's been turning in for decades. I cannot wait to see how the performance of a lifetime ends. His character here is good. His performance is perfect. His performance is always perfect. The characterization in the writing falls a bit flat sometimes, but again, that's not at all to blame on Kevin. Kevin did a fantastic job with Batman the entirety of his career, as well as this game series.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that gamers are the most oppressed demographic of people, and I think, Oingo!
Arkham Asylum feels like a rhythm game, but not in the sense that you're tapping along to what you're instructed to tap, more as you're developing the rhythm in your own head, if that makes any sense at all. Now do me a favor. Everybody raise your hand if you've heard this. Arkham Asylum really makes you feel like Batman. Really? Everyone? Yeah, that tracks, you know? If I had a nickel, yada yada, I'd be a millionaire. I'm not gonna make a whole section of this video dogpiling video game reviewers for having no original ideas. Video game reviewers do that themselves every day. No, what I'm actually using this section to say is that I disagree with this as a sentiment. I don't really feel like Batman while playing this game. For starters, I don't think Bat's got a gut like this. Secondly, flipping over inmates and gliding 20 feet just to spin kick someone in the face really doesn't scream Batman to me. At least I never read that in the comic. No, while Batman is great at hand-to-hand combat, from what I've read, he's all about misdirection and keeping his enemy on their toes, not letting them circle him, and then do a 360 backflip and give him a concussion. No. Well, he definitely does that concussion part. No, I don't really feel like this gameplay style screams Batman, but it's still fun. And then there's the counter system. Maybe this isn't common knowledge, but Batman doesn't have spider sense. That's Spider-Man who has that, who does that thing. If there was some bonus New Game Plus where they took this out, that would be great, but not in this game. If they did that, yeah, that would feel like Batman, but they didn't do that in this game. While we're talking about the counter system, I see critics of this game all the time saying it makes it too simple, as you can just spam counter and not get hit. But you can't do that. Not only do the knife-wielding enemies and titans themselves, they can't be countered, that's also not how you win the game. Counters don't do damage, so just spamming the counter button, you're just gonna lock yourself in a stalemate for 3 fucking minutes, and that's how long I did this for. I did it for 3 minutes. The other half of the combat is the predator sections. Sometimes all the enemies have guns, and if you jump them, they'll kill you. You will be dead. They'll shoot the shit out of you, and then you try to run away, and you fuck up, okay? You can't do that. These sections do kind of feel like Batman. One sticking point I have for these is that, namely in the first half of the game, they just happen to have gargoyles all over the place. It doesn't matter what room you're in, there's gargoyles that you can stand on and you're good. And I see why these are so heavily used. It's to get you used to the Andrew Tate sections with the least amount of changing between each section as possible. Therefore, every section has to have gargoyles and grates just to keep all things the same except for the layout. But then later you start to see them moving away from gargoyles, either by punishing you for relying on them or just outright removing them. This room in the Botanical Gardens sees one guard looking down at you, ready to drop some hostages to their death if they know that you're there. AKA, if any other patrolling henchmen are knocked out or anyone sees you, game over. This section, while also a bit brutal, has 0 gargoyles in it. None whatsoever. But it's fun. Outside of combat, the gameplay is a bit lackluster, running around, crawling through vents, occasionally talking to people here and there. There are a few puzzle-type rooms requiring you to activate fans or disable electricity to prevent the people around you from dying, and various traps set up for you.
And then there's the matter of the detective vision, which is a little view change for Batman, letting him see through walls, see guards, see their heart rate, see who's armed and who's unarmed. It's pretty nifty. I always feel like I use it way too much, so I actively tried to not use it on this playthrough. But then I got to this section in the asylum, in the crazy house. Feels like a rude way to phrase it. In the crazy house. But people jump out at you in this section. There's this dude jumping at me. What am I supposed to do? I have to have the detective vision on to see him coming. And it's just, it feels like I'm forced into it. But with all of those minor complaints in mind, I still think that the game is a wildly fun time. And besides, there's one more section we've got to talk about.
Yes, in true gamification style, Batman Arkham Asylum has boss fights. And why wouldn't it? We'll get there. Anyway, boss fights are fun in this. Scarecrow Kaiju shows up throughout the game, always fucking with your head a bit before you're forced into a section where you need to stealth your way through, avoiding his gaze and occasionally curb stomping a few skeletons until you reach a bat signal, aiming it at that big ass bitch and getting out of the nightmare. Bane is up next, and while he only shows up for one encounter, soon taken out of the equation via vehicular manslaughter, his boss fight, in which he'll charge at you, you yeet a batarang at him, and then you treat his Adam's apple like a speed bag, while brief and fleeting, does show up later via Titan encounters. Of course, later, it's more complex, not in the sense the mechanics change, just that they double up on the Titans, or add a bunch of thugs, or do both. Killer Croc's lair is what I remember to be my favorite part of the game, but playing back through it, it's still good, it's just okay though. You have to walk extra slow to not tip him off to your location above the water, but he still finds you and starts charging you, and then you throw a quick batarang at him, and then you toss him away, and you continue on while you gather some game objective. I'm gonna be honest, the reasoning for going from place to place is super forgettable in this game. The finale to this section is fun, blowing a hole in the floor and sending him deeper into the sewer to go eat more Scarecrow, or whatever he spends his free time on. Poison Ivy serves as the penultimate boss. She's all hopped up on Mountain Dew and also Joker's Titan formula. Biolante is a fun boss fight, but it's also a bit obnoxious, just because you have to keep spamming the Batarang throw button while you whittle down her health. It's not hard, it's tedious. By this part, it was late, I was tired, so I started employing a speedrunning trick, saving an upgrade until I was low on health, then popping the armor enhancement, which filled my health completely. I definitely only needed to do this once, only once, never again, I swear. The final boss is the main stipulation I have with the characterization of the Joker. What doesn't fit with Joker's character for me is in the final boss, in which he injects himself with his own Titan formula. As a boss fight, it's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. As far as characterization goes, it falls a bit flat for me. Joker's never really been the pursuit of power the other members of Batman's rogue gallery have been, always leaning more on purely causing chaos than furthering some selfish ploy for power. But taking the entirety of the series into account, this does fall in line with the version of the Joker that Rocksteady is working with for the series, more focused on power and world domination than he has in other variations of the character. So with that in mind, it does work. Bram Stoker's Arkham Asylum is, again, the superhero video game I wanted while growing up. And okay, to be fair, I was only 14 when this came out. I was technically still growing up. Regardless, it is what I wanted while reading Batman comics at a young age. I don't feel like Batman, but I do feel like I'm playing an interactive comic book. It's fun, it's flashy, it's got a distinct comic-inspired art style that...
I don't know what kind of stroke that I had here, but I definitely said inspired, instead of inspired. I don't know what inspired means. I'm very confused as to why this word came out of my mouth. While having aged, still looks dark and gothic, the way it was intended to look. The flaws are minor enough for me, and it stands out as the only real Metroidvania of the series, giving it a plus in my book as one of a kind. There are still 2 more games in this series.
I'm not going to review Origins. But those videos are for another day. Asylum is a great starting point, not only for the franchise, but for Rocksteady as a whole, because Urban Chaos doesn't count. It put them on the map, and since then they've only gotten better. I can't wait to share my thoughts on the rest of the series.